and we had to change. So John is with us, and I hope he will take interest in how the whole initiative unfolded. I also like to welcome Dr. Ranjita, Professor Hamid, and Dr. Manohara, who are going to review the project for us at the moment. And most importantly, I'd like to pay tribute and remember and welcome our 3 successive project leaders. So Mahesh Gatala, who was the first project leader in the early phase of Srfsi, and Mahesh is the person who taught me everything I ever needed to know about conservation agriculture. So he's played an enormous role in the research and the science about conservation agriculture in irrigated and rice-based systems. Dr. T.P. Tiwari was a key project leader at the juncture of the activities going from research and technical investigation into dissemination of knowledge through capacity building of diverse stakeholders. And so welcome, TP, to see how the whole thing unfolds. And finally, of course, Brendan Brown, who has done so much in the last couple of years and is organizing this final review. I also want to reflect on the long investment of ACR on conservation agriculture topics. We had work for about 20 years in the western side of India. And so it was an interesting decision about 10 years ago to actually explore the opportunities in the eastern side of India. We had the rice maize project started in about 2008 in Bangladesh, which was one of the foundation of this work. Then we had John Dixon commissioning this particular work. And of course, with the policy changes in the west of India around crop residue, stubble burning, and issues of water management, excessive water use, all the stuff that makes conservation agriculture more topical than ever. Srfsi is bringing the eastern side of India up to scratch on the same topic and is likely to have a faster impact because of those changes. And so the project we are going to finally review and conclude in the last 3 days with some bittersweet feeling about, because it's always sad to finish something that's been so successful, but also we need to recognize that there is such thing as successful research, and it's proper to close at some stage. But that project has been the foundation of a much broader program of work on the Sustainable Development Investment Portfolio that was funded by the Australian Foreign Affairs Portfolio. And so it's very timely that we review that foundational project, and then in a couple of weeks, we'll review the whole program, being much better informed by having considered this foundation. So thanks everyone for attending and helping us discover and remember and analyze all the successes, challenges, and remaining gaps in the field that we are interested in. And I'm very much looking forward to the next 3 days. Thank you, Brendan.
Thank you very much, Eric, for your opening remarks. Now we'll move on to Dr. Timothy Krupnick, who is a strategic lead for CIMMYT in South Asia. Tim?
Hi, good morning, and thank you everybody, and special thanks to Brendan for asking me to make a few remarks. I want to thank and recognize Eric and the numerous colleagues who are on this call. It's very good to be here. Brendan, when I heard you say a decade ago, I got goosebumps and was kind of amazed to reflect and suddenly realize that we've been working collectively on Srfsi and a range of similar projects for a decade now. And I think what makes Srfsi unique was the range of important partnerships that it brought, and particularly that it brought multiple CGIAR centers together with a range of advanced research institutions and universities, as well as a range of non-governmental organizations and the private sector working on the ground to accelerate the research to impact continuum that we wish to see from the work that CGIAR does globally, as well as in South Asia. As many of you know, Srfsi is also closely related in many ways to another project that is near and dear to my heart, which is the Serial Systems Initiative for South Asia, or CISA, that has been kindly supported by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and also USAID. Many of the concepts and ideas that these two projects have worked on together are ones that have allowed us to co-learn and support each other in doing this very important work. But whereas many of the locations that CISA had worked in were geographically constrained, Srfsi enabled an expansion of work on a range of topics such as zero tillage, conservation agriculture, and most importantly, rural services provision and entrepreneurship to different geographies that we could not easily work in, given some of the constraints with funding that came from other major and important donors. By operating these projects as a portfolio, we not only encouraged co-learning, but we were able to expand our work to new areas and see much wider impact. And most importantly, also, I think that Srfsi should be recognized for its very strong and very innovative approach to using massive online courses and videos such as Brendan just showed for raising awareness and doing very strong due diligence around capacity development, and also being able to speak to multiple audiences and targeting capacity development materials, ideas, and innovations to policymakers, extension agents, service providers, and farmers, specifically based upon their needs. Moreover, I want to recognize the excellent scientific rigor and documentation that Srfsi has brought in terms of peer-reviewed publications, data sets, but also doing very challenging and difficult work to understand the complex adoption processes associated with rural entrepreneurship and service provision and agricultural machinery in each of the countries that Srfsi has been working in. This is perhaps one of the things that sets Srfsi as being very unique, in that the approach to understanding adoption and adaptation patterns for machinery and conservation agriculture-based practices has been truly rigorous and unique, and brought new methods and approaches to the field that were not previously utilized in South Asia. With that, I will conclude, and I wish to thank everybody for taking your time for being in today's event and the subsequent day's event. It will be very rich learning. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you very much, Tim, for your opening remarks as well. Finally, to open the meeting, I'd like to ask Dr. Manohara Khadka, sorry if I got your name incorrect before, Manohara,
Yes.
to open on behalf of the reviewers.
Yes. Thank you, Brendan. Hello, everyone, respected sir and madam. Very good morning and namaste from Kathmandu. Thank you for the opportunity to say a few words on behalf of reviewer. So I start by introducing ourselves, we reviewer, and also some sort of expectation we want to learn more during the discussion, 3-day discussion of this when celebrating Srfsi. So I would like to, we are 3 members. Thank to ACR for giving us the opportunity to be part of this very important project in phase evaluation. So I would like to introduce Professor Abdul Hamid, is from Agrarian Research Foundation, Bangladesh. Professor Hamid is the former Vice Chancellor of Bangladesh Agricultural University, a senior respected expert on Bangladesh farming system, and also their opportunity and innovation. He has a long experience and very reputed credibility, research, and academic career. So I would like to introduce second colleague, Dr. Ranjita Puskar, who is from International Rice Research Institute, ED. She's a ED country rep for India, and also research leader for gender and livelihood. Puskar is an accomplished professor in agriculture research for development with more than 20 years experience, post experience from Asia, Africa, Pacific region, with focus on technical institutional innovation for addressing food security, nutrition poverty to result in equitable, sustainable development outcome. Myself, my name is Manohar Khadka. As Brendan said, I'm a country representative for International Water Management Institute. By background, I'm a social science, applied natural resource management with focus on policy governance, gender inclusion is my area of expertise. So we are very much excited to learn and also learn from this 3-day exercise, as review is really based on the literature and text-based documentation, review of the documentation, other repository we have. We're very much impressed by the project effort, as Tim also said, project effort on capacity building as a pathway to CASI institutionalization for adoption and scaling of CASI is very impressive. We are very much amazed with the scientific publication and data set, and also knowledge product that establish an evidence base that conservation agriculture based sustainable intensification really is viable in this Eastern Gangetic Plain. So basically, we read a lot of things from project report, and we got a lot of insight. We like to have a bit of more knowing about this project. Basically, few things we like to learn more from the discussion. For example, first interest is the project implementation. Having said that there is a COVID induced a bit of delay, suspension of some activity in last year. What was the adaptation of these processes of the project? Second is that country-specific opportunity and challenge for scaling CASI technology in the Eastern Gangetic region, because we see that there is an adaptation progresses outcome varies across the project, the location. So there are differences. We will also like to know a bit of more policy, sustainable point of view, policy and institutional environment are the key to sustainable scaling of the technology that were proven and also adopted. We found that progress and outcome in terms of creating enabling environment differ between the project location. As an example, significant progress outcome in West Bengal. CASI included in government guidelines scheme mandated requirement for at least 3 CASI less in CHS, I mean Custom Hiring Center. How did this difference become possible in West Bengal and not in other contexts? This kind of reflection would really help us. And second is that some locations have strong institutional platform and structure, which is very important for institutionalization of CASI technology, while others don't have. So what lessons have been learned in terms of sustainable functioning of this institutional body or platform that really support scaling technology, the CASI technology, and also agri-mechanization? Third dimension, a bit of we like to hear and learn more is that gender dimension of scaling, like agri-mechanization and CASI technology, because we learned that project has invested a lot, much effort on capacity building, training, field exercise. What are the project intervention started to understand gender beyond the quantitative? We see the quantitative data is very much pertinent there. So just number of women are presented. Is it only the number of women to show in the progress? What effort project did made in terms of measuring women empowerment? We have a very successful approach strategy in terms of empowering women, in terms of technology and also technology adoption. What are the has project has considered any intersectionality beyond the counting women or not. So would be very much interested learning about these questions. So at the last, more learning would be on a bit of field-based and presentation. From that, we want to learn more on linkages of CASI technology to market and agriculture value chain. We see there are much effort on market value chain, but what does it mean in terms of linkages between CASI technology and the sustainable marketing and business model? So these are some of the questions we would like to learn more about, beside the other thing also, as we all are celebrating success of this Srfsi and also looking forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Manahara. And I'm hoping that the program will be able to cover everything that you've brought up there, and particularly as we have our discussion sessions there as well, where if reviewers have specific queries, please do bring them up so we can answer all of the detail that you're seeking. Thanks so much to Eric, Tim, and Manahara for opening our final meeting. I think we'll pull out the Srfsi ceremonial bell from purchased by Peter Brown 2 years ago, and we'll ring it and say that we've opened the meeting. Now with that, we do have about 60 people on the call at the moment, but we'll see how we go. I think it's important because we have lots of new people on this call as well, that we have the opportunity to know everybody that's on the call. What I might do is try and nominate one person from each location or each organization. And if you can introduce your team, just so that we can keep our timing, that would be great. So maybe I'll put Eric on the spot first. Would you like to introduce the Canberra bubble?
Okay, yeah. So from the ACIAR in Canberra, we have with us today Robin Johnston, the research program manager on water, and we have Bethany Davis, I think, who is our research program manager for portfolio planning and impact evaluation, who is definitely very interested in end of project reviews to understand the impact aspect. And we have invited guest Miss Cara Donoghue, who is an expert in monitoring and evaluation, who is going to produce for ECR a review of innovation platforms. And so Cara is attending the meeting as an observer to learn more about one of the scaling mechanisms that the project has undertaken. And from ACR, we of course have a representative from the regional office in New Delhi, Dr. Pratibha Singh, and I haven't seen whether we have, Chetali Chabra from ACR in New Delhi is also with us. Thank you, Brendan.
Thanks, Eric. Welcome to the ACR team. Kuhu. There we are.
Yeah, I'm Kuhu Chatterjee, and I work as the regional project coordinator along with the project manager, Tamara Jackson, who's also on the meeting. Actually, I have such a small screen. So most of you know me and Tamara because we've been very closely associated with the project.
Thanks, Kuhu. Welcome to the both of you. Maybe we can start with some of the Srfsi project team. So I'm just going to go with who's on my screen. So maybe Dr. Sanjay, would you like to introduce the BAU team? We still have Dr. Sanjay. Yes, thank you.
Good morning to all. Myself, Sanjay Kumar. I am seeing the Srfsi project, and in my team today there is Dr. Ramdat, is seeing the social science group. Dr. Ranveer Kumar, who is also an economist from CPSC Purnia. Dr. Pawan Kumar Srivastava is RA of this project, and presently he is in the Dr. RPCAU. And another member is Dr. Swaraj Kumar Datta, who is seeing the Epson model. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sanjay. Maybe next we will go, I think, Tapan, if you are on the line, would you like to introduce Satmar? If not, Kushik? Nobody else from Satmar with a working microphone? If not, I can do that.
Hi, Brendan.
There we are.
Tapan here. Good morning. Thank you all. Thank you so much. Great pleasure to see a lot many faces and even to see John Dixon, 2013-14 when we started on this project. I am representing Shatmar Satish Club of Patagar. I have Amol, who's the secretary, who's there. Also, along with that, we have Chandan, Chitranjan, and Liton, as well as Kaushik Baumal, representing the Shatmar Satish Club of Patagar team. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Tapan. Shakawat, welcome. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Welcome to all. This is Dr. Mohammad Shakawat Hossain. I am a senior scientist of Bangladesh Agricultural Research Institute. I am the working scientist in Rajshahi district of Bangladesh. I only one member who joining in this meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you, Shakawat. And now I think we need about 20 minutes for the UBKV team. Thank you for all of you for joining. Apurva, would you like to introduce?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. My name is Apurva Chaudhary. I'm from Uttar Banga Krishi Vishwavidyalaya. I am coordinating these project activities in West Bengal since 2011. And my team is composed of Pratik Bhattacharya, who is basically a plant pathologist, but working for conservation of agriculture for the last 20 years. Kollan Kantidas, he is an agriculture economist. Dr. Arunabha Ghosh, he is our statistician. Dr. Abhas Sinha is the soil scientist. Dr. Tapomoy Dhar, he is coordinating the project activities at Malda. And Dr. Biplab Mitra, he is an agronomist. So since long, probably I and some few persons are associated with this project since its inception and it's before inception also. So during this long journey, I met several great personalities, starting from surprise call of John Dixon from Australia, Peter Cornwis, Pat Wall, Ronald Bures, Ram Dalal, Roy Fay, and many others. I would like to say something because as my discipline does not fall with the core group of the conservation agriculture, I have to struggle to meet the project requirements. However, I am fortunate to receive guidance from Kuhu, Mahesh, TP, Brendan, and obviously my beautiful team. And working with the Department of Agriculture was totally different, which became easier by the efforts of my friend, Mr. Sujan Sen. However, in few occasions, I have lost my temper, and for that, I may be excused. Thank you and welcome.
You're very much excused, Apurva. Thank you so much. That's a good segue to Sujan. Would you like to introduce for West Bengal DOA?
Good morning, Brendan and everybody. Myself, Sujan Kumar Sen, Additional Director of Agriculture, Department of Agriculture, Government of West Bengal, India. Today, along with me, the two officials from our department are present in the meeting. Dr. Rajas Chatterjee, Joint Director of Agriculture in Trading, working in Coachbihar district, and Devashish Ghosh, Deputy Director of Agriculture, now posted in Tripoli. Both of them have played a significant role at field level. Dr. Rajat had been playing the key role in Coachbihar district, and Debashish has been playing a key role in Malda district. So they are presenting today. We have started our journey as partner since 2015, and during this multi-partner project, we have experienced a lot of knowledge in conservation agriculture. We have knowledge from not only from CIMIT, but also from other partner organizations who have played key role in this project, from ACIR, of course. And thank you, everybody, every partner for working jointly in this project. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Sujan. Mamun for RDRS.
Good morning. Myself, Mamunur Rashid, Senior Coordinator of RDRS Agriculture and Environment Program. Basically, I'm coordinating the activity in the Rangpur divisions of the Srfsi projects. My other colleagues, Muhammad Abdul Rahman, who is based in Dhaka, also attending this session, and another two colleagues who are also based in the Rangpur, Mr. Anup Kumar Ghosh, who directly involved with these projects, are also attending, and Mahfuz Alam, currently he's working for the FBIP projects, also attending this session. And actually, we're thankful to all these project leaders, 3 project leaders of the Srfsi for their supports, and also recognized our the farmers and farmers organization, federation, and colleagues. Thanks. Over to Brendan.
Thanks, Mamun. I will move to CSIRO, Peter.
Thank you, Brendan. Yes, so my name's Peter Brown from CSIRO in Australia. I'm based in Canberra here. And my work has been helping to implement and support some of the socioeconomic work throughout the project. I'd also like to acknowledge Tony Darbus, but she's unable to be with us today. We'll also introduce Alison Lang. I think she'll be talking shortly. She's been involved in the APSIM modelling work along with Don Gaydon, but I'm not sure if Don's on at the moment. They're both based in Brisbane. And Rick Llewellyn, I think, is also online, and he's been doing work on the smallholder adopt model, and he's based in Adelaide. So we're a diverse team in diverse locations in Australia, but wishing we were there in country and meeting with you all, and just hope everyone is well. And we're looking forward to hearing how this goes. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Peter. Faye.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Faye, and thanks, Brendan. I'm Faye Roller Rubsen. I am from the University of Western Australia here in Perth. So hello from Perth. Our team actually in UWA and Curtin, we started with this project as part of Curtin University and then moved to UWA. Our team is actually quite small. So we have 3-4 people within our team, but we work in partnership with many of you partners there, with Dr. Chowdhury and the UBKB team, BAU, Bari, RDRS, NARC, and most of the other CSIRO and other teams as well. So with UWA and Curtin, we have myself, I'm an agricultural economist, socioeconomist, and I work on farmer behavior and technology adoption, on risk behavior, and also in the intersection between gender and economics. And my teammate, Roy Moray Pryor, I think, yep, I can see Roy is there. He's actually from Northern Queensland. So Roy is an agricultural extensionist and also an agricultural economist. And we have John Mark Sarmiento. I'm not quite sure if John is here. He is also an agricultural economist. So quite a small team, but yeah, we work closely very much with many of the partners. So thank you and hello to everyone.
Thanks, Faye. I think I saw Dipendra. Dipendra dropped off, perhaps, was representing NARC, I think, but has gone off. But maybe we'll hear from him a little bit later. Just looking at my screen on the CIMMET side, maybe I'll quickly introduce. So we have Anjana Chowdhury, Emma Kaki, Pragetim Sina, Akriti Sharma, and Manisha Shrestha, who are part of our Kathmandu team, been working hard on our recent analyses. Of course, we have, actually, I won't speak on behalf of Mahesh and TP. So Mahesh, would you like to say anything?
Thank you, and good morning and good afternoon to everybody. Thank you, Brendan. I would like to introduce here and the contribution and active, participation and support from Patrick Wall, which is initially years his support was really very appreciated. That's I'd like to also introduce which is supported very well. Sofina, definitely TP, Srf as a project manager. There were a few more, but again, support guidance from John, Eric, Kuhu, and then Tamara, Emma was there in between. So it was a whole team. So thank you, and then nice to see you again, everybody. And I cannot forget to all national partners from their dedication and hard work, which we are here today to see this great impact. So everybody's contribution is really, because beyond that their capacity and then their time, and then they work day and night to make one SRF aside from them. So thank you to everybody.
Thanks, Mahesh. TP.
Yeah. Hello. Thank you, Brandon. Hello, everyone. Very good. Coming to see you all very familiar faces. And maybe after some time, yeah, I have few slides to present with you. And during my time, I fully enjoyed the support from SIR and other CG centers, including NARES partners from 3 countries and Australian partners as well. Okay, thank you. Back to you, Brendan.
Thanks, TP. I was mid-CIMMET, I think, but we also have some other CIMMET colleagues. Amjath, would you like to introduce yourself?
Brendan, you said Amjad, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm Amjad Babu, working as agriculture economist at CIMMET Dhaka. Thanks for organizing this meeting, Brendan. I'm looking forward to see what Srfsi has achieved in last 1 decade. I'm looking forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Amjath. Anton.
Yes. Hi, everybody. I'm Anton Ortwed. I'm working with CIMMET CISA project, especially on water management, and I'm very much looking forward to hear the findings of the Srfsi project. Thanks a lot, Brendan.
Thanks, Anton. Working through my list is a bit out of order now, so I'm hoping not missing anybody, but Christian and Kate.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see those that I already know, and very happy to meet new people. I'm here in my capacity as a reviewer of the ACR SDIE program. I'm a fly on the wall today, and very much looking forward to learning more about your work. And I thank ACR for the opportunity to act as a reviewer on this really important program, and in particularly the Srfsi component of it. Thank you.
Thanks, Christian. I might echo similarly, Kate Hayes. It's great to be here, and I'd like to thank ACIR for the opportunity, but to also all of you for the interesting over really a decade of work. I am a fly on the wall for this. Christian and I are both program reviewers for the whole ACIR SDRP program of work, but this is a critical part of that. So I'm really looking forward to participating in these few days. Thank you.
Thanks. Arundam.
Hi, good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Brandon, for inviting me. So I'm Arindam Samaddar. I'm from International Rice Research Institute. I'm based in Delhi. I work mainly with CISA, and we had the opportunity to collaborate with Brandon's team for a qualitative study. So I'm here and looking forward to learn and understand more about the Srfsi for coming 3 days. Thank you.
And always interesting in virtual times when you haven't seen people in a while and then you see a very new haircut. So nice haircut, new haircut there, Arundam. I'm seeing a few names. So Masood from CSIRO, you need to introduce yourself. Perhaps not, unless I have a different Masood. All right, we'll continue. Farid. This is going well. There we are. Yes.
Hello. Good morning. I'm Dr. Farid Khan. Thank you. So I'm very nice to be here with a lot of very nice researchers in agriculture. I'm from actually Rajshahi University. I'm just RE coordinator for FB project. We are just working on your road, and we are just trying to extend the road that Srfsi just paved in. So thank you very much for giving me opportunity to just sharing your information. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. I think there's a few names that I've missed other than one key one who I'm leaving for last. So John Dixon, I'll leave you for last. Is there anybody that I've missed that would like to introduce themselves? We say about 5 seconds is the right amount to wait, in which case I'd like to give the final introduction to John.
Well, thank you, Brendan, very much for the invite. I'm very happy to be a participant in this final review meeting and to see so many old friends and colleagues on the line. I've been impressed by the bits and pieces I've heard from the Srfsi and associated projects since I left ACR. And I look forward very much to hearing where you have got to now in this final meeting. One reason I do that is because I've been asked to prepare or to design a masterclass for sustainable intensification based on Kazi, and we will actually most likely pilot that in South Asia remotely before the end of the year. And so we will depend very much on Srfsi results and also other projects and programs. So thank you very much. I look forward very much to the event. It's great to see old friends.
Thank you so much. So welcome everybody. Thanks. Hope to hear everybody's voice throughout the rest of this meeting. And so we continue onwards. Hoping my screen has come up, but it appears not. Hang on. Let me swap this round, seeing as my screen is playing tricks. Despite me having the right screen before, it's decided to change screens. 1 second. Would you believe I can't even see any Zoom bars? Here we are over here. 1 second, sorry. Here we are. All right. Now it's saying I am not a host. Tamara, do you still happen to be a host?
Hang on, let me check. We can see your screen, Brendan, if you just want to start talking.
There we are. Okay, so we are moving on. We have some pre-recorded videos on what we are trying to do with Srfsi. So let us start that. Hopefully this will work. It's great to have people here with us for these sets of meetings that are not so familiar with Srfsi. It makes it all the better to celebrate everything that we've achieved throughout this project. But in order for them to understand what we did and where we got to, I think we also need to go back and establish how and why Srfsi was established and the different phases that we've gone through in Srfsi. So let me take everybody back a whole decade, back to 2011, which is our project code in the ACS system, and look at what we were trying to achieve through Srfsi. So to start with, here are what I hope are 4 established facts that we all agree on as to what was happening in the Eastern Gangetic Plains in 2011 when Srfsi was conceived. The first one is that farmers had a pretty tough existence. Poverty was quite dense compared to other regions of the world. Second, farming systems were not productive and could not provide enough to enable household food security for farmers across the region. Thirdly, farmers faced many problems in achieving productivity, profitability, and sustainability from their small farms. These include constraints with small land holdings, access to irrigation, credit, quality seeds and fertilizers, and formal extension services. Farming communities were also increasingly experiencing scarcity of farm labor. And fourth, the region was also predicted to be one of the most impacted by climate change. Yet farmers had little capacity to innovate and adapt to this and other challenges they faced in farming. In summary, being a farmer in the Eastern Gangetic Plains in 2011 was hard, and it was increasingly becoming harder and more complex. In 2011, a scoping study undertaken through ACR suggested that conservation agriculture-based sustainable intensification could provide some solutions to the problems that farmers in the Eastern Gangetic Plains were facing. However, whilst CASI had been proven in other parts of South Asia and globally, it had not yet been proven in the Eastern Gangetic Plains. And so Srfsi's story began. The first thing that Srfsi wanted to do was, given that it was shown to work elsewhere, could CASI help resolve farmers' productivity, profitability, and sustainability constraints across the Eastern Gangetic Plains? Now, if that could be proven, the second thing that Srfsi wanted to do was to look at how CASI could be promoted to enable smallholder farmers to use CASI practices across the Eastern Gangetic Plains. So that's the why of Srfsi. But what about the how? So we've said that the first stage of Srfsi was to prove that it was relevant in the Eastern Gangetic Plains. So the first thing that needed to be done was through proof of concept, and this involved the many field trials that were done throughout the first phase of the project. We also had the beginnings of partnership brokering, making sure that everybody knew what was going on, that everybody was building their capacity together, learning together, coming together to ensure that if we were able to prove CASI, the key change makers would be part of that process. That is essentially what we were trying to do in phase 1. Then came phase 2. Now this phase was particularly deployed around capacity development, making sure that key change makers knew about conservation agriculture practices. And a lot of that also came through support, experimentation, and demonstrations.
Brendan, sorry, can I interrupt you for a sec? Apparently there's some issues with audio.
People having issues with audio?
Yeah, I can hear it okay, but there's a couple of messages coming through that there are some problems.
Okay, let me finish off live. Let's see if I can do that. Hang on. I'll have to find the presentation.
Okay, it's probably better to just start now so that people don't miss it.
Yep, I just have to find where my original presentation was. Mahesh and TP, if we're having issues, then we might need to check. Can people tell me if it's great to have people if the same problem exists now? These sets of meetings that are not so familiar with conservation agriculture across the region and stimulating local adoption. Of course, if you get these two things together,
a bit
what you then get is widespread CASI adoption. If it works,
is there any way you can turn that up, Brendan?
Are starting to use it, and so the snowball will start rolling down the hill, accumulating mass, accumulating speed. The third phase of the project really looked then to ensure that this was packaged and completed in a way that the impacts and the momentum could continue beyond the life of the project.
Okay, I think it's fine. Thanks, Brendan.
The thing that we wanted to do was make sure that this was packaged in with policies, with programs, with organizations, and that would survive beyond the Srfsi project. The other thing that we wanted to do was then that confirmation of concept. So we have the proof and then we have the confirmation. When you put that together, you really get a strong case that CASI belongs in the fields of smallholder farmers in the EGP. And of course, all of these are then linked together. What this means is that in practice, Srfsi went through 3 distinct phases, although as we've seen, they are all interrelated. The first phase was around establishment of a CASI knowledge and scaling base, getting everything ready and making sure that CASI is relevant to farmers in the region. The second phase then really focused on capacity development as a pathway to institutionalization, to convergence, and to successful longevity in scaling of CASI. The third phase then took a more holistic approach that looked at all of the other different elements that come into play. So really each phase building on each other until we get to phase 3, which is really about understanding how to scale CASI more widely across the region. Each of those phases had its own project leader. So in the first phase, we had Dr. Mahesh as the leader, establishing the field trials, establishing the knowledge base, and building that scaling base. In the second phase of the project focused on capacity development, the leader was Dr. TP. And then I took over for the third phase that focused on scaling. So what we have now is I've asked that each project leader of their respective phase reflect on that phase, and particularly what was the purpose of that phase? How did that phase implement its activities? What new knowledge or outputs were generated? And why was that phase so important to understanding and scaling CASI across the EGP? All right, apologies for the technical difficulties. I think it's working a little bit better now. We just have to change up our approach a little bit. So let me see. I'll interrupt Alison there and say now we have the introduction to the first phase of the project with Alison and Mahesh. And I haven't shared my screen, have I? One moment. The localized adoption of conservation and agriculture. That's not the right one.
Hi, everybody. I'm Alison Lang from CSIRO, and I'm talking today with Dr. Mahesh Katala about the evolution of the SRFSI project and its operation in its early years. Brendan has already explained the research questions underpinning SRFSI, so we're going straight into talking about the initial research. Maheshji, what countries did SRFSI operate in?
Thank you, Alison, and welcome. This project was started in 8 districts of 3 countries, India, Nepal, and Bangladesh, in Eastern Limited Plain zones, where all 3 countries, boarding areas are in place. This is also facilitated as a regional platform, as there was no, regional platform to share the knowledge and experience across the border after the RISE with consortium finished, particularly in Eastern Europe. Though CISA, was a regional project in initial year, but later on it was shifted more on country specific. This, geographic area are similar in trophic system, culture, environment, biophysical characteristics, and ethnicity. But major differences are in policy and governance. So, wanted to examine differences across the national borders of conservation agriculture, sustainable intensification practices.
And this project focused very much on research from farmers' fields, not from research stations. This was an unusual part of SRFSI, but it was also one of its great strengths. How many farmers' fields did we work on?
Indeed, yes, because this project was focused more on, directly on farmers' field. So we designed and implemented our 1,000, on-farm trials at farmers' field, as per the farmer, requirement and demand. Out of that, over 400 farmers' field trials were core trials, which were looking the impact of, conservation and assessment across the borders. And then there was short and medium-term goals, trials which are more addressing the research questions of local and then, medium district level problems like immediate generations, immediate income generation, options, and then, trophic system optimizations. So these were, addressing the direct driven demand of the farmers.
Mm-hmm. And as well as operating on so many farm fields, I know SRFSI was really complex in its number of project partners and the huge project team. Who was involved in SRFSI, and how did you identify these partners?
Because if you have over 25 partners, it's not easy. It's a big complex platform, because if you have different mindsets, different, organization expertise and then diversity in, many aspects in cultures and everything and working styles. So yes, this consortium was over 25 partners, including national and international research agencies. And then partners were chosen, for the regional areas they worked in, and also their expertise in aspects of agronomy, water policy, crop stimulation, scaling, and social research. Later on, we came together and all we selected, like research districts, and then visited these to engage with local communities and explain the project goals and objectives. Local communities selected farmers to participate in the project and local technicians who were employed by the project to monitor day-to-day operations. Particularly, engagement with local communities was important to ensure community ownership of research, as well as our respective bottom-up approach to working with our farmer colleagues was really fundamental to success of SRFSI.
I completely agree with you. I think that bottom-up approach, and you've talked before about farmers being our colleagues on the project, not our end users. I think that's a super important part of what drove the success of SRFSI. I know we're going to talk later in session 3 about capacity building and training in this part of SRFSI, and that was training both at the individual level and also for institutional stakeholders of the project. So for now, I'm just going to flag that knowledge building was a key part of the initial project design. But as well as a strong training program, there was really strong monitoring and evaluation of all field trials. Could you talk a little bit about this, M&E, please?
Thanks, Alison. As you mentioned, that training or capacity building is very important and priority, and likely also MEL, monitoring, evaluation, and learning also equally important. Without effective monitoring and evaluation, it's not possible to effectively build the project and you can get quality. So in this project, the effective monitoring, evaluation, and learning is the key to of this project success. Our focus was on quality delivery through part transparency and responsibility of individuals and team. This is started with the field technicians who were the link between farmers and the projects in all districts and who monitor the field trials day-to-day basis. They were able to alert the project team to any problem early on and ensure we could find a solution quickly. A team of project scientists visited each field trial site at least once per cropping seasons to talk farmers and learn directly from them and to support our local research colleagues. As well, the project provided technical backstopping and agronomic support as needed basis throughout the field trials. We had 6 monthly evaluation meetings through semi-annual and annual workshop where all partners shared their progress.
And gender was another important consideration in SRFSI too. What did you do to empower women in SRFSI?
Here we are very thankful to DFAT, SDAP and ACIR, as they, put the very strict target of 30% women's participation. But initially we thought that we make the number 30% increase. But later, in very short period, we realized that okay, we cannot ignore 50% population. Without the effective participation of 50% population, any project is not going to be successfully implemented. So that was the great realization for us. And then immediately we design our research in such a way that we have a gender-focused focus group discussion and we identify the programs and content and their need. Accordingly, we design our research. Later on, also we developed a capacity building in each geography institutions that's a gender specialist, which were the responsible of all gender activities and make sure that gender participation in all activities and everywhere is there. So that was a great, success, example. That's how women are and equal gender participation is important to make a project more impactful and successful.
Yep, absolutely. What were some of the other innovations that were instigated in the SRFSI project?
From the beginning, we were very clear that for the sake of project or from the scratch, we will not start everything new in the communities. So rather than how we can use the existing infrastructure which has been either established or developed by government agencies, development agencies, NGOs, INGOs, and then other development projects and all. So we explored them and we contacted them, we visited them, we explained project goals and activities, and then later on we plan that we want to catalyze them. So we train them, we provide the capacity building for them, and then orient them for micro-entrepreneurship. And we find the gaps, and this project fills the gaps where that like machinery requirement, inputs, key inputs, training, technical background, so on. So that was the one. Then this led to development of single window services where farmers could get all their assistance with cost practices in one place, including advice, technical inputs, and so on. So because we worked with the existing farmers group, the farmers already had trust with these groups, so we didn't need to build this from the scratch. All innovation had the effect of improving the support of farmers street from passive practice, ensuring its local relevance and wider uptake. Later on, this platform also used as a kind of umbrella where all stakeholders come together and then put their all activities like convergence, like all government plan schemes, other development project schemes, and then some projects, and then, research organization, everybody come together, and private sector, which is very important. And we invite all, and they come together and they implement their activities through, through this group, which were more impactful and more, kind of like better outcomes oriented.
And another aspect that you had to ensure the broader uptake and the wider awareness of SRFSI right from the start was engagement with policymakers. Could you talk a little bit about the engagement with policymakers that was undertaken from the start of SRFSI?
Engagement with policymakers came after with the farmers. We combined top and bottom-up approach to ensure that our scaling project research was more possible. Because when we have like this much of strong field trials of projects in the field. So these local communities with effective participant local communities. So these local communities involve the local governance and policymakers, and local governance and policymakers further communicate to higher level, and they invited in the community, and they convince them that okay, this way is going to be more sustainable, and farmers then they can improve their livelihoods, and then they can get opportunity for employment, self-employment, and so. So they convinced, and then later on this project was catalyzed and facilitated for consultation and for effective or creating a enabling effective enabling policy environment. So that's why this project is really worked very well.
Yeah. And SRFSI also facilitated farmer-to-farmer learning and broad collaborations between farmers. Could you talk about some of the knowledge sharing that happened between farmers and why you did that?
Thank you, Alison. Seeing is believing. And farmer understand their own language rather than they trust directly on scientists and actions. They listen them, but it's not necessary that they act on them. But once they talk to farmer and they convince, then they really act on that. So that was the great experience. So we ensure through field days, community visits, and then putting all and traveling seminars and so, and capacity buildings and all, and focus group discussions. So we involve all these communities everywhere, and we, treat these, communities as a partner rather than as an end users. So that was great. So because that's developed trust between scientists and then, these communities and then farm, and then they led for so many things. So that really it was a wonderful experience to work on that.
It really was. And I think for everyone who worked on the SRFSI project, being able to enable farmers to sustainably maintain or increase their productivity was the most rewarding thing. Another rewarding aspect for scientists was the publications that we achieved. And this is only a snapshot of all those that were achieved. We couldn't fit them all on. But could you talk a little bit about the publications from the early years of the SRFSI project?
I think this is one of the most proudable, achievements or outcomes of SRFSI team or SRFSI family, I would say. Through this, project, and till now we will publish, 24 papers. Out of 24, 10 publications are in very high, impactful international journals. With more in pipeline, there's no doubt about that. And I would like to congratulate to all involved in these publications. These publications are addressing issues of environment, water, energy, productivity, income, and then labor. And then, all these aspects, and then social science and innovation, so on. So, and this not only published in agronomic journals, these are published in all range of, journals that have environment, social, agronomic, energy, and so on, so water. So yes, this is really a great achievement of SRFSI.
Absolutely. Now, SRFSI, you were leading SRFSI for the first part of this project, and it was really your life, wasn't it? Your professional life anyway. You were living, breathing, thinking SRFSI all the time. What did you personally enjoy the most about working on the project in these early years?
Yes, it was a great challenge because to working with 20 partners and then so many diverse communities and all. But I would like to thank Mr. Patrick Wall to help me and then contributed a lot. But really we enjoyed working with farmers, listening them, learning from them, and giving their feedback to improve the field trials as well as technologies. SRFSI team not only did good science, but it was full of lovely people. and it's really have a great impact on their day-to-day social science and social life as well. We worked hard and we enjoyed ourselves.
Maheshji, I'd like to congratulate you on establishing and leading such an important research project. I know that your personal commitment, your hard work, and your dedication throughout the early years of SRFSI contributed significantly to its success. Well done on your contribution to conservation agriculture-based sustainable intensification in the EGP.
Thank you, Alison, and I'm really grateful to all farmers who really provided the unconditional support to us and they trust on us. Support, staff, researchers, science, and all who were involved in making the SRFSI such a success. We cannot ignore that all institutions and the NARS that they provided, the unconditional support, and they worked hard. And really, this is not kind of like simple, but I would say this is really a big family of SRFSI, which has converted as a family, not as a project. Now we can say project, but it's a really one family.
Great. Thank you so much, Mahesh and Alison. I'm sorry about the technical difficulties. All of the different presentations will go up in fully functional form as the meeting ends. What we're going to do now is to move
Namaste
on.
and
Hang
salam
on.
alaikum to everyone. As part of setting the...
My apologies. This was not how we had planned everything. Give me 2 secs while I get TP's presentation up and ready, and then we'll be moving on to phase 2 of the project. Hope people are noting down any queries that they have that they'd like to discuss as well. Here we are. Okay, so over to TP for phase 2.
Yeah, I'm going to namaste and salam alaikum to everyone. As part of setting the scene, I'm going to present the collaborative efforts so far we have made during the middle years of Srfsi under this capacity development. And while presenting my stuff, I will be answering some of these questions. Mainly this, what did we aim to do? What did we implement? What did we find or learn? And why is this important? Although they are not in, proper sequence, but you will get some of the, answers of these questions. And as part of background, I would like to take you to the original Srfsi objectives. There were 4 objectives, but during the middle year of Srfsi, we mainly focused on objective 3rd, which is related with policy issue. And this objective 4 is, dissemination of Srfsi learnings. So far we have met. So, this shows the shift of our focus, mainly from phase 1 and part of phase 2 to, phase 3. You can see this bigger square, mainly devoted for this objective 1 and objective 2 at the beginning of the Srfsi, but in the later part of this phase 2 and let's say Srfsi variation 3, we mainly focus in policy, addressing policy issue and participatory technology development and delivery. Under this Srfsi variation 3, our innovation impact was supported by the improved capacity of NARES partners, including service providers and the agro dealers. The adoption of CASI technology will continue, and by 2021, at least 1.5 million farmers in the EGPs will use one or more of the CASI technologies. This is what we aim to do. And originally we were expecting that this Srfsi scaling variation 3 and the policy project will be working together. But later on, I'm not sure whether this policy project is still, integrated with the Srfsi or not. But anyway, original idea was that. So I'm not going back to this policy project now. And while achieving the targets, we mainly focus on the capacity development impact pathways. Although there were other impact pathways which we took simultaneously as well. The main expectation of capacity development pathway was that the NARES, will take the ownership of some of the technology that Srfsi validated and disseminated. And I think reviewers will seriously look into it and interact with our NARES partners, whether they have really taken the ownership of some of our technology or not. So what we implemented during this scaling variation 3 was mainly to facilitate this training events. And we designed 3 levels of trainings, level 1, level 2, and level 3. And provided equipment for smooth implementation of field activities by partners, and using a kind of targeted approach to take into account those most vulnerable, like women and poor households. And anticipated result was that, by the end, we'll have kind of improved individual institutional capacity to increase agricultural productivity and profitability, improved individual and household capacity amongst those most vulnerable. So, during that period, we also implemented these competitive grant schemes. And these partners with red letters were selected mainly from these competitive grant schemes, and other ongoing partners were also there to help us in this capacity development efforts. And as I mentioned earlier, mainly 3 types of training were organized. Level 1, particularly targeted for senior scientists and senior officers from NARES partners. Level 2, mainly junior scientists and junior officers from NARES and the NGO partners, including private sectors. And level 3 was targeted mainly for farmers. And for this type of efforts, we have also distributed these training materials that were prepared from other, Srfsi, and also from other regional projects managed by CIMIT. And at the same time, based on our learnings, we had developed the kind of protocols around CASI, and they were also used to train our different stakeholders. And besides that, we also conducted high-level meetings and policy dialogues. Policy briefs were also, produced and distributed so that the mind change of these research and development leaders, including policymakers, will be changed. And the success stories around food, energy, and water nexus were also prepared and developed, distributed. And during that period, we also supported for FCM training, advanced training courses on CASI were also organized on various dates and year. And Australian leadership fellowship were also provided to key people who were, significantly contributing to the project. Conferences like agronomy were supported to our, scientists mainly from NARES and the NGO partners. And the Australian leadership awards were also, provided to some of the higher government officials who participated in this Srfsi project, and enhancing private sector capability in on-farm irrigation for food security, paper writing workshop, innovation platform trainings, and other PhD support courses through linkages were also supported during that period. Yes, and this is a kind of summary. And during, until June 2019, we could, achieve this much of targets. And out of these targets, around 28 women participation was there. And considering this socio-political situation of the region, this level of participation, is quite encouraging. And I'm sure that we'll have a kind of gender-focused presentation during these 3 days. As I mentioned earlier, the key learning so far we have was a kind of high-level meeting is key to change the mindset of the research and development leaders, including policymakers, which in my definition was a kind of top-down approach. It worked well based on my understanding. So, So the first regional policy dialogue on scaling CASI was organized in Dhaka. That was from 8 to 9 September 2017, where this mainly research and development leaders, including policymakers, mainly from the South Asian region, were there in Dhaka. Regional collaborative platform on CASI technology was organized in Kathmandu during 22 and 22nd July 2018. Again, these regional leaders were there. And the Srfsi project achievements showcased in West Bengal on July 24, 2018. And in 2017 also, we had organized a similar sort of event in West Bengal. Although I have not put here, but it was organized quite nicely. And these are the pictures. This is in Kathmandu, and this is in West Bengal, together with Agriculture Minister and senior advisor of the Chief Minister from West Bengal. And then ministers and senior advisor to Chief Minister, Vice Chancellor from UBKB, and the government officials applauded the progress of the Srfsi and remarked that CASI can bring smiles to farmers' faces. And there are a few videos around this sort of things as well. I think you might have already watched those supportive videos. Advocated for targeted subsidies, like the JT machine and other CA promoting machines were advocated for subsidies and discouraged to reduce the rotavator subsidy on rotavator. And again, Srfsi project achievements showcased in Bangladesh as well on 27 May 2019. And you can see this photograph. And this photo is regarding this rice seedling nursery factory managed by one of the women group in West Bengal. And as I mentioned, that protocols were developed and distributed, and they were mainly from the learning of Srfsi. And that had resulted in convergence of some of the technology into the government plan and schemes. This is another photograph from the western Tarai of Nepal. And another key learning is gender mainstreaming, which we took more aggressively with the leadership of Kay Rabjan, an associate professor of the University of Western Australia. And she will be presenting in more detail, so I'm not going to deal here. So anyway, this was one of the successful aspect under Srfsi as well. And so finally, I would like to thank DFAT and through DFAT to SIR, mainly John, Dixon, Robin, Eric, Puhu, Tamala, Pratibha, and Chetali, and there were many more. And they guided me and supported me hugely during my leadership. So I'm really thankful to them. And the partners like public and the private sector from 4 countries, that includes Australia, Bangladesh, India, and Nepal, and the farmers from targeted EGPs, colleagues from my own organization, that is SMIT, and other CG centers, including international organization. I'm immensely thankful to all of them. And without their dedication and concerted efforts, that level of achievement would not have been achieved. So thank you very much. Thanks.
And so from phase 1 and 2 comes Srfsi's third phase, crudely known as the scaling phase. And the point of this phase is to really build upon what was done and all the successes in phase 1 and phase 2 of Srfsi, and to make sure that there is longevity and sustained impact from all of the work that Srfsi has done. Srfsi's final phase went for 27 months. However, 19 of those months were under COVID restrictions, making working on scaling very difficult. All of our activities were within our overarching question: what worked where and why? And what does that mean for future scaling efforts? This was framed all within ensuring a clear exit strategy, something that many projects don't think about until it's too late. I know that this was a tough adjustment for many partners when we started saying that we weren't going to directly fund farmer demonstrations and that we needed to move towards co-funding and co-ownership of these activities for sustainability. However, I think that that was important in creating our narrative of scaling sustainability. In full, we had two aims. The first was to build a functional understanding of how to enact autonomous CASI scaling post-Srfsi project closure. That is, the what of scaling. How do we scale CASI? And secondly, to catalyze requirements that facilitate widespread autonomous adoption of CASI post-Srfsi closure. That is, what do we need to do and how do we then action it? We also made efforts to integrate regionally the project after context-specific efforts were focused in phase 2. Of course, all of this was made much harder because 70% of this phase was under COVID restrictions. To achieve this, we wanted to cross off against two key objectives. Firstly, we wanted to truth and confirm CASI as valid in EGP, and particularly with non-Srfsi farmers and non-Srfsi communities. We also wanted to explore the decision-making of various sub-typologies to understand how this set of technologies was integrating into communities. Secondly, we had to cement Srfsi's legacy through a focus on creation, accessibility, and integration. In terms of our research activities, there were two key Srfsi surveys. The first one was the Srfsi Regional Impact Evaluation Survey, covering more than 5,000 households. The second was the Srfsi Qualitative Decision-Making Survey, which covered 336 individuals and went into great depth on their decision-making across various typologies of CASI users. We also had several targeted collaborations, including a Weezen Gender Photo Voice Survey, a collaboration with USAID CISA Nepal on an All of Nepal Mechanization Survey, a collaboration with Bill and Melinda Gates CISA in Bihar on direct seeded rice assessments for service provision. We also collaborated with ASIA and the Australian National University on a digital agri-advisory study in Bihar, and we completed our innovation platforms assessment. All of this was done with a focus on trying novel analytical approaches to create the most in-depth understanding of the situation, and at points also looking at indirect outcomes of certain decision-making outcomes. Now, speaking of novel frameworks, anyone who's talked to me for more than 30 seconds will have heard my ranting and raving about how we tend to talk about adoption, and particularly about adoption as a binary outcome. In this phase of Srfsi, we really wanted to extend our analytics around understanding not just adoption, but around adoption processes, typologies, and moving beyond adoption and non-adoption. We further adapted some existing frameworks that have been used to assess conservation agriculture adoption in Africa. And as you'll see in later sessions, this can really add more nuanced understanding as to where we are now, how we got here, and what it means for future scaling efforts. Some example outputs like this highlight just what is the status, how we got there, and where we go from here. Another focus that we had in this phase of Srfsi was around creating a more nuanced understanding of farmer decision-making, and particularly through understanding the multiple levels that individuals assess and make their resource allocation decisions. In this framework, titled the Decision-Making Dartboard, we look at 4 different resource types across 6 different levels. Like our first key framework, this is also adapted from work done to understand conservation agriculture decision-making in Eastern and Southern Africa. We applied this across multiple typologies to unpack how someone ends up at a certain technology and what are the next steps to progress them along in the adoption process. When we do that, we get these mind maps that link often unknown or thought of as unrelated elements in the decision-making process and helps us look at what are the next steps in increasing community-level adoption. Of course, Srfsi is not just a research project, so our other objective was to ensure that all our great work was meaningfully used and accessed once the project ends. This covered many topics and activities, but the highlights include development of new materials, increasing accessibility to our created knowledge, developing new tools, creating and assisting with key infrastructure, and ensuring that we can articulate what happens next once Srfsi finishes. I'm sure you'll be able to make your own conclusions around the importance and success of this third phase of Srfsi, but let me try and push you in the right direction. This phase was really important because it confirmed CASI as valid across the region for smallholder farmers. It also established the current status and what that means for future scaling efforts. We were able to close some of the scaling gaps with our legacy activities. And we continue to build momentum with sustainability in mind despite COVID-19. Most importantly, we were able to establish what next steps are needed for sustained autonomous adoption of CASI across the region. All right, welcome back everybody. So hopefully you've got a really clear overview now around what we were trying to achieve with Srfsi. We're going to have to steal about 5 minutes from session 2's discussion to use that here because of our technical difficulties. What we want to do in these discussion sections, and this one will be shorter because hopefully we've covered most things, but to first open the opportunity to any of the reviewers, if they have any questions around why Srfsi was established and what we were trying to do. Once we pass from the reviewers, if anybody else feels that there's something that is absolutely integral that wasn't discussed around why Srfsi was established and what we were trying to do, that will be the opportunity to bring it up. So first, if I pass to our reviewers, if you have any questions about the justification for Srfsi. Ranjit.
Brendan, thank you. Thank you everyone for an extremely rich set of presentations and videos and setting the scene. Very useful. I don't think my question is about whether we have enough justification of why and how, but I mean, we don't have to answer this question now, but something for you to note and, you know, to address in the sessions that would be forthcoming. It's really about, yes, we've heard a lot of, I mean, it's an extremely rich and complex project, great documentation, great M&E, a lot to learn. So fantastic effort, fantastic outputs, I think. And we've heard a lot about things that have worked really well. I'm just curious about, what do you think hasn't gone well in these various phases? And if you had to do this all over again, each of those phases, what would you do differently? And how has what you learned in a particular phase, how was that addressed in the subsequent phases to sort of, you know, move the project, the activities, the understanding, the learnings to the next level? Thank you. You're muted, Brendan.
I promise I unmuted myself, but thank you. A really thoughtful question. I think we'll have to take it on notice given the time and maybe return to this in the final session where we have a bit of a longer discussion, and let's see what we can tick off and then what we still need to do. And if not, we'll go to some additional sections. Thanks. Any other questions from reviewers? Professor Hamid, you seem to be on and off. Do you have a question? Perhaps not. All right. Then opening the forum, did anybody have anything that they think is very
What I was interested to learn that you have for in the first phase, you did lot of experiments, and eventually you perhaps developed a set of technologies, CASI technologies for different regions, or did you try the same technologies to these 8 districts or in 3 regions equally?
Okay, thanks, Professor Hamid. I'll try and answer briefly, and then Mahesh, if I miss something, you can jump in. But essentially, there's the overarching CASI package, but that was regionally different. For instance, 2-wheel tractors in Bangladesh as opposed to 4-wheel tractors in the other locations. The same with direct seeded rice being having less potential in West Bengal compared to the other locations. So whilst we have the overarching package, we then do have regional differences. Mahesh, did you want to add anything to that?
Thank you very much. And then, all cost packages were, validated and, refined and fine-tuned as per the local need and then geographical areas as well. So it was not exactly like say management, nutrient, and then agronomic packages and all are different areas for that. There are different cropping systems as well as, ecoregions and geographic areas. So like Bihar and then Nepal was more on rice wheat, but Bangladesh was more on rice maize and rice and rice wheat, and then so on. So there was a differences in cropping system as well as also in management practices and all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great. Given the time, anybody that would like to raise something that they think is really important to Srfsi's establishment? All right. Great. That means our 3 project leaders have hopefully done a good job of setting the scene. What we're going to do now is quickly take a virtual group photo. One of the hardest things seeing in Mahesh's presentation was the group photo of everybody standing together in one photo, something that we've missed. But what we'd like to do, if people, hopefully internet will hold up here, so that we can take a big group photo. So if people can put their cameras on and hopefully smile at the camera. And Manisha, I believe you're going to try and capture everybody's beautiful faces. And Manisha will give us a thumbs up when she's happy.
Yes, I did one because I've got like 3 different pages to scroll into. So just bear with me for a few minutes more.
You can see some people are getting bored of smiling at the camera. They've already dropped their smiles.
Almost there.
I'll say 66%. So very unfortunate we're not all standing in the same place.
100% now.
There we go. So such efficiency from Manisha. Thank you, everybody. What we're going to do now, we're going to take a 15-minute break. We'll play some music. We'll also play a video. So go take your time. And as you come back, you'll probably see some of our videos playing. See you in 15 minutes. Thanks, everybody.